So why is it so hard to get a proper procedure?
It is.
Because everything that we have is written on your napkin that you wrote.
The two I wrote for Navigator and for Momentum are identical to what we have.
Well, I mean, for this one, because the procedure doesn't list anything other than a 60-10 route pass
For the side seam. That's the only place you use that is on the side seam.
So, like I saw it list, it doesn't list the chamfered edge that you want. It doesn't list leaving the gap between the butter pass and not contacting the sleeve. All of that's wrote on a napkin. So why can't we get an actual procedure?
They're not going to put any of that in that procedure, because if you do that, then how do you weld the side seam?
You have a procedure for different position welds.
You have one procedure for an in-service weld. It's even like that at Enbridge, and they have the most complicated one ever. And it doesn't look fundamentally different than ours.
There's nothing there. There's no layout. There's no guidance. There's no anything.
Because there doesn't have to be. You are literally the first person probably that's ever not done the work or the inspection on this stuff. You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing. You gotta learn, and you're smart enough that this is perfect for you, but it is a little bit of a hindrance that you've never put one on.
Well, I'm going by the procedure. My job is to go by the procedure, and the procedure literally doesn't list anything other than 60-10 route, 70-18 fill.
I get it.
That's it. That's the only thing listed on the procedure.
I get it. They're all going to look the same in the future of all your work. It's not a joke. I'm not kidding. They all look the same. But you got to know how to put them on.
What you asked for is out of procedure, and your napkin is out of procedure.
Mike,
you know me well enough to know that if I set my foot down, I know what I'm talking about.
I understand that you think you know what you're talking about. You don't understand that you do not know what you're talking about, because like I said, you've never done this, right?
Right. I've never welded an in-service weld.
That's a problem. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you this stuff. That's why we wrote down in the notebook, this is how this happens.
We wrote down on a napkin, a procedure is legally binding. A napkin is an opinion.
Listen, and it's the construction manager's opinion, and it's the gas company rep's opinion.
It's not an engineer's opinion.
This is how this goes on. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
I want to do it. I love doing it. I think this is awesome, but we need a proper procedure.
Mike, listen to me. This is everywhere. This is an in-service procedure for everybody. You're going to get on the next job, and that in-service procedure is not going to look any different. And you're going to start through this shit, and they're going to go get fucking lost. They are. And you're not going to have anything to do about it.
Yeah.
The way it goes.
So we follow the napkin that you wrote out.
Yes. We use the procedures there for your travel speed, for your heat input, your ranges. That's what it's there for. This is like I said before, sleeve work fundamentally is the engineering conundrum of a bumblebee. It's never gonna hold the heat loss that engineering-wise it has to maintain. Never gonna happen. It doesn't happen with heat stress putting into it. It doesn't happen. There's never, unless they completely void the line and stop the flow, never going to happen.
So even that's not a concern, because the 1104 gives you two options. It gives you the heat stress that you're talking about for the flow, or it gives you the temper bead procedure. We're basically running a temper bead procedure without a temper bead procedure. There's nothing to even diagram
welded that way.
There's nothing to even diagram the layout of the welds. Like that's supposed to be in the procedure also. There's literally nothing but 60-10, 70-18, your amperage and your inches per minute. That's the only thing in the procedure.
Because that's all they're ever going to put in it. Like I'm telling you, everywhere you go, it's going to look identical. And if
so even the chamfered edge, like that's going out of procedure because the procedure is wanting you to follow the 1104. Like you're forced to reference the 1104, and the 1104 doesn't reference the chamfered edge. And so in order to put a chamfered edge, you have to have that in the procedure. But you're telling me to put a chamfered edge, which is telling me to step out of the procedure.
How?
The procedure sets for a fillet weld for in service.
And it is a fillet
And there's
weld.
no diagram showing you the layout of the welds. That diagram would show you a chamfered edge, but there is no diagram.
The diagram won't always show you a chamfer.
So you're forced at that point to refer back to the 1104, to the in service. In service refers you back to the weld and joint fitment of the 1104. Everywhere in the 1104, it shows you consume the top edge. So in order to step out of the 1104 and override the 1104, you have to have a procedure specifying why the customer wants you to go outside of the 1104. And there is no procedure for that. So for your napkin to tell me to put a chamfered edge, your napkin is telling me to step out of the procedure, which is what I'm asking you about.
1104, the way it's wrote, depending on which version you use.
This one's the 21st, according to the procedure.
And that stuff, like the minor changes between 21, 22, and potentially 23 that's getting released, are minimal. But at the end of the day, they're writing to a very generic. And at that point, all that stuff is looking at is they're adopting from D11, where they consume edges. But I haven't seen anywhere, unless it's just an ignorant fucking inspector that goes, you gotta consume that edge. Everywhere I've ever been, and even out of the 6 guys we had at Enbridge, there was one guy that was like, you guys gotta consume that edge. I'm like, no, we don't. It says right here not to, and they were specific that don't consume the edge. And then they didn't even mention chamfer. That was just what everybody does at that point, because otherwise you look like you've got like a cold lap or whatever you want to call it. Heat.
Yeah, you'll definitely have
stress riser.
what would appear to be undercut because of the change of the angle of the fillet versus the surface of the sleeve. So there's no guidance in the procedure to even tell you how much filler metal to put there.
Right.
You can't look for low cap. You can't.
You can, because there's valleys between his passes.
But there's nothing to say that that valley is low versus he has excess. There's nothing.
Cold lap. And that's what you call it. It needs to look like Ryan's.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. But I didn't have a leg to stand on there.
Ew.
Other than
Workmanship,
workmanship.
like appearance.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, essentially you call it the same way you would on a mainline weld if a guy had his caps edge to edge, not overlap properly. Because as soon as you overlap them, it fixes all that.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't run into that issue.
There's not that much fucking to cover. And that's the deal, like, remember when we were going through the class and they were talking about on the fillet welds, like the leg measurement and all that BS. Most companies won't write that in to give you a fillet dimension because the sleeves vary. And everything's based on the sleeve and the pipe wall. So you got to do this average between the 2 wall thicknesses. It's just like here, the pipe's slightly thinner than the sleeve, but that's basically the smallest sleeve you can order is a 3/8.
Right.
So, again, like if you get to the engineering side of it, then you got to do some calculation to figure out this is the wall thickness, this is the sleeve thickness, this is what the fillet should measure, and do the same thing. And at that point, either way, you never get to the what 1104 says to consume the edge. Because if you consume the edge, you've overwelded wall thickness on the main line. Like, you amongst anybody should understand the gaps in 1104 like that.
Yes, that's why the procedure needs to fill in the gaps.
It won't. Ever.
Because, like, I don't like that at all, but I don't have a leg to stand on because that's welded to the procedure. Other than workmanship appearance.
And
That's the only one.
Not aligning welds.
That one's within the procedure also. We'll put a 4-inch gap, but that's within the procedure.
Josh?
That is Josh.
Fucking time.
His helper's name is Brian from now on because he tried to blow the generator up with a whole can of starting fluid like Brian did with his Fast and Furious car.